Honorable Telecoms and Technology Minister of Indonesia, my colleague, Minister Rudiantara, Honorable members of the venture capital and tech sector in Indonesia, Pak Rudi Ramawi and colleagues, honorable guests from overseas, Shailesh, and colleagues, honorable colleagues from our central bank and our financial sector authority, Bank of Indonesia and OJK. Good morning, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So first, I have to convey to all of you the warmest greetings from President Jokowi. He deeply regrets not being able to be here himself. I think we all know how much he loves young people. And I think we all know how much he loves tech and social media, right? So I think it's certainly not for lack of desire that he's not able to be here, but he's dispatched me to share some thoughts and to convey his warmest greetings. I agree with Pak Rudi, that was quite a laser show. Probably the best opening act of any event I've attended so far this year, certainly. What you guys don't know is that we've actually put something in the gas to make you guys even more euphoria than we already are, right? So, you know, if you're feeling a bit psychedelic this morning, now you know why. Ladies and gentlemen, a couple of things. First, I guess in my official capacity, I have to thank you all for being here, for organizing this event. I think this year is a very special year. Need to raise again that this year we're hosting the Asian Games in Jakarta and Palembang on 18/8/18, the opening of the 18th annual Asian Games, I believe. No, that's not right. No, sorry, 18/8/18. Anyway, that's the point. And secondly, we're hosting the IMF and World Bank meetings here in this very island of Bali in October. So, and you know, we view this Nexticorn conference this week as part of this year's Energy of Asia theme for Indonesia. So in this case, the digital energy of Asia. So, okay, now that's out of the way. All right. Now, why am I here? I think, obviously, number one, I was instructed to be here to represent the president. So, of course, you know, I follow, like a good professional, I follow orders. No, but secondly, I'm actually very happy to be here because I have a huge interest in what all of you are doing. Yeah. So let me share a couple of stories, a couple of facts, which amazingly, I think is only emerging now. A lot of people don't realize this. Yeah. So over the last 4 years, essentially our international investment into Indonesia was rescued by two sectors. The first sector is smelter, particularly nickel smelter. There's been billions and heading into the tens of billions of dollars of capital inflow into the smelter industry, particularly nickel smelter, and that has succeeded in boosting Indonesia's ranking into the world top 3 producers and exporters of stainless steel. Right? So that's the number 1 source of international capital inflow into Indonesia that saved Indonesian FDI and Indonesian investment. While the second sector that saved Indonesian FDI over the last 4 years is your sector, is e-commerce and digital economy. Right? If it was not for these two sectors, smelter and digital economy, over the last 4 years, FDI into Indonesia actually would have been down, not up. So it's no exaggeration to say that your sector and the smelter sector and all the capital inflow into your two sectors is what saved FDI in this country over the last 4 years. And I can share that based on everything that I know, I very much expect this trend to continue. Yeah, so we're already working on the next phase of smelter expansion, smelter downstream development, and obviously we're all here today, and we'll continue to work together closely to safeguard and, if possible, accelerate and expand the capital inflow into the e-commerce sector and the digital economy. Now, what is important from the government perspective? Yeah. And I apologize to those of you who've heard me say this before, but I think it's important that I raise it again. Actually, as many of us know, this is not the first time that the world or even Indonesia is experiencing a technology boom. I think many of us were already around in the late 1990s, early 2000s, when we had a tech boom, the dot-com boom, right? Arguably, the internet era started when a company called Netscape released their browser circa 1994. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the Netscape IPO took place in 1995, right? Now, at that time, the USA was being governed by the administration of President Bill Clinton, right? And basically, after much policy discussion, they boiled it down into two principles, right? Two principles. One is called light touch, and the other one is called safe harbor. Yeah. Now, just a brief explanation of what these are. Light touch refers to regulation, right? The importance of just not barging in there and trying to meddle and regulate and start issuing rules, right? Basically, the importance of just stepping back and allowing for a lot of experimentation, allowing for a lot of innovation and things to happen, even if in many cases these innovations break the rules, right? Now, I have to be honest, in this country, our bureaucracy is strongly incentivized to regulate. Yeah, so I think there's a continuing gap between desire and reality, and I will be very honest with you that that is the situation that we're facing, right? I think the president is profoundly aware. I think called the reformist faction in the cabinet is profoundly aware, right? But we're up against a bureaucracy that for decades has been built to be geared towards intervention and regulation, right? And you can't imagine the amount of defense that Minister Rudy Antara and I play every week and every month trying to shield you guys from regulation. Yeah, but that is a fact. Now, I think many of you who know me know that I'm famously direct and famously outspoken and try to be very, very honest. So my honest opinion remains that net, I'm optimistic, right? I remain optimistic. It's bloody difficult. It's painful and frustrating. And as I've said in other forums, reform is a process of 3 steps forward, 2 steps backward. But I think the reformists in the cabinet continue to retain the upper hand, even if at times it feels like barely, right? And I continue to be, again, net, taking into account all the considerations, optimistic about the trend of deregulation and modernization of policy in our government. That's number one, light touch. Second one is safe harbor, right? I think the basic principle that we all have to keep reminding ourselves as policymakers and rule makers is that innovation comes from experimentation. And experimentation means failure, right? It's the nature of experiments that experiments fail. Now, it would be hypocritical to say that we are pro-innovation if at the same time we are not pro-failure. That is logic, right? Innovation requires experimentation. Experiments, by their definition and nature, fail, right? So if we're really serious, if we're really sincere about wanting to support innovation, we have to create a regime, an environment where it's safe for you guys to fail. Yeah? Now, that sounds very cliche and very, okay, you know, fuzzy, but I'll give you a couple of real examples, right? So, talk about failure. I think all of us in this room, probably in the back of our minds, are always aware that startups will have a, 90% failure rate? 95% failure rate? 98% failure rate? Now guess what? When you set up your PT, your limited liability company, your corporation, right, two things. I'm not sure how many of you actually think about the eventuality that someday you actually have to wind down this PT and liquidate it. Yeah? Well, guess what? In this country, liquidating a PT will take you between 5 and 9 years. And while the company is in liquidation, you still have to perform an annual audit. You still have to file your annual taxes. And you will be potentially vulnerable to harassment and even extortion from law enforcement agencies. Right? So when I talk about making it safe for people to fail, there's an example of where we have to reform and improve. And this is where efforts such as boosting our standing in the World Bank's ease of doing business becomes very, very real for pelaku, for people. Because to give you an example, so again, briefly, the World Bank's annual survey called Ease of Doing Business consists of 10 indicators or 10 components. One of them is to do with our court system. Yeah, how fast, how slow, how expensive, how cheap to settle a commercial dispute in the courts. Right? It goes to the heart of court system modernization and legal reform. And that is also the source of how comfortable or uncomfortable it will be for all of you when you fail and when you have to implement that failure, right? Now, again, this leads me to my last point. Yeah, look, notwithstanding whatever we put in the gas this morning to make all of us euphoric and enthusiastic, personally, I'm very focused on execution and implementation. I think I have to. I've decided I want to try to be the adult in the room this morning, right? The voice of sobriety. And I think it does behoove us all to keep in mind that financial conditions, for example, going forward will probably become more tight, more restrictive, right? I noted that in the last couple of months, many technology shares like Tencent, Alibaba had a very healthy correction. I think Tencent lost like $100 billion in market cap in like 3 or 4 weeks, right? So look, I think we're very excited, we're very enthusiastic. We will continue educating the public and raising the public how critical is this e-commerce and digital economy sector to the totality of FDI and investment in this country. But I think all of us really have to become sober-minded and really focus on delivery and execution, because after this initial burst, after this digital energy and everything, I think we have to be we have to start to prepare for a medium term. It's going to be harder and tougher financially, in terms of monetary liquidity, in terms of stock market yields, right? And I think, just have to open the front page of the newspaper today, right? Rupiah 14,000. So again, I think how to balance between the excitement, the enthusiasm, which is warranted, which is real, and it's well-deserved, and we need to keep it that way. But I think we have to balance that against seriousness, sobriety, being sober-minded, and continuing to deliver the goods, deliver the numbers, right? And of course, on our side, the government will do our best to really execute and deliver as well. So thank you all for the honor of allowing me to convey the President's greetings and respects and love to all of you. Again, he loves you guys, right? He loves you guys so much, and he respects you guys so much. Obviously, Minister Rudiantara and I accompanied the President on many occasions, right? And you can really see his face light up and his body posture, like radiate happiness when he's with you guys, with young people, with techpreneurs and technology, sector people and startups and entrepreneurs. So once again, thank you so much for not only inviting me, but for your hard work in doing this, in the hard work and the passion that you're putting into your companies, into your investments, your portfolio companies, and I wish you all a productive conference this week. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, His Excellency Bapak Thomas Lembong.